Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Career Care Package episode 110. My name is Naishad Gadani and I'm the co-founder of Career Care Package, LinkedIn Live episodes. Today we are talking job search strategies, tips and techniques with Karen Thompson. She is the founder of Communicate You. And specifically, we are going to dig into what Karen calls the four secret R's to help you land the job and career of your dreams. But before we do that, let's welcome Caroline Brown.
Thanks, Nash. Really excited to be here and to meet you, Karen, and really excited to be digging into those R's because I'm sure they'll be very beneficial for people and helping people set themselves up for success. So I guess a great place to start would be to get you to introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a bit about the work that you do with Communicate You.
Yeah, sure. It's lovely to be here, so thank you both. My career has really been around people and their careers. So I've spent a lot of time in recruitment. I've also worked in education in universities, and I was one of the founding team members for Murdoch Executive Education Centre when we set that up for Murdoch University 10 years ago. So that was all around helping, running programs that were aimed at helping build confidence and courage and capability. And I think that's what I wanted to do when I founded Communicate You. I mean, I found myself at a turning point. I have had, in the last couple of years, I've had a few health issues. I ended up having a year off work, and then I was working for a wonderful company that enabled me to create a new role part-time to go back to work after I got healthy again. But then, of course, COVID hit in March, and I knew that my role was unsustainable, a part-time role doing business development in the recruitment industry when jobs were just drying up. So I spent a bit of time, at home doing some baking, watching Netflix, reading books, and then thinking what I want to do with the rest of my life. And that's when I decided that I would back myself. And I would bring together all the skills and experience and everything that I've done, all the things I love doing, and create my own business. So I was actually working and talking with a friend who is an international executive coach, and she sort of said to me, "Tell me exactly what it is you want to do." And I said, "Well, what I want to do is I want to help you communicate you." And then we looked at each other and went, "Hey, that's a pretty good name for a business." And that's how Communicate You was born. I mean, I'm a marketer by trade, and I'm a writer. I love writing. But what I love doing is helping people get the best out of themselves to communicate themselves. And often for all of us, it's the hardest thing to do. We can sell products and things for other people, but when it comes to us, we see all our flaws, and sometimes we just need to stop and think about all the good stuff and how we get that out and how we let that shine.
So tell us, it's funny, when I was reading your LinkedIn profile and reading your blog posts, it struck me that one of the things around communicating is making it really easy for the audience to understand concepts and grouping concepts into kind of themes and models and that kind of thing. So with when I saw the 4 R's, I thought, well, that's a great way to understand how to have a successful job search or career really conceptually. So tell us about the 4 R's and what they are.
Okay, well, what I would like to say first of all is I can't take the full credit for the 4 R's. About 14 or 15 years ago, I was in a presentation that Greg Savage was doing, and anyone who works in the recruitment industry would know Greg. He's a legend in the recruitment industry, having been around for 40 years and started and run many businesses. I was lucky enough to work with him twice in my career. So yeah, he used to talk about the 3 R's. So I've updated them and added to them. So the what I see as the 4 R's of career success is your resume, and obviously not just that piece of paper, but everything that you have done that brings you to where you are in your career to date. So your education, your work experience, your volunteering, the professional development stuff that you've done, the associations you're involved with, all that kind of stuff. Who are you? And how is your resume representing you? The second R is relationships, because networking and having a really strong network of supporters is crucial. And, I think nowadays, obviously, with online, LinkedIn and Twitter and the like, we have an ability to network with people all over the world. So, networking is vital. And I think when it comes to networking, the most important thing to remember is the law of reciprocity. That's another R that I can't say.
Make an R in there and make it one.
Exactly. But yeah, what you need to do with your network is you need to give more. You just give and give and give. And when I say give, it's like I'm a connector naturally. So if I'm having a conversation with someone and they say this is what they're doing, or this is a project, or this is where their interest is, I will think of someone, go, oh, you need to meet this person. So I will do introductions, I'll connect them. I'll be thinking about a podcast that I've listened to that might be of interest to them, or a TED talk that I've seen, or a book or an article, the sorts of things that give you the opportunity to follow people up, particularly, if you perhaps meet with them at a networking event. A lot of people have that awkward, like they exchange business cards, they might connect on LinkedIn, but what do they do? So it's really about getting to really know the people within your network. And I always say that the best time to build your network is before you need it. I've sort of met with a few people lately who go, oh yes, I've been so busy working, I should have built a network, and now they're perhaps looking for work and they don't really have people that they can talk to ask or get referrals from, etc. So that is the second R. The third R is your reputation. And whatever you do in your career, always do the right thing. The right thing might not always be the easy thing, but do the right thing. Do your job well, be well respected, be well regarded, and build a good reputation, and then never ever do anything to stuff it up. So, and obviously today with the digital footprints and things, it's really important to know what you're doing, what you're saying, be very aware of things, and make sure that you're being the authentic you, but you do have a good reputation. And then finally, the final R, which I added, was resilience, because just like unprecedented and pivot, I think resilience is going to be one of the words of the year in 2020, because it really is important. So many people I know, in high profile, really good jobs, senior professionals, all of a sudden are made redundant, or people who are losing their businesses through no fault of their own. We need to always look after our physical health, our mental health, and make sure that we are strong. We don't take things too personally. If a company goes broke and you lose your job, or if they have to contract and downsize and you lose your job, it's sad, but that's the way things go. And life isn't always fair, and it's not always easy. But we just need to be able to make sure that we have the resilience within us to keep going forward and looking to the future and being optimistic that good times will come again. We just need to sometimes go through some of the bad times to appreciate the good times.
Absolutely. If you've got any questions for Karen, please put them in the comments. If you're listening to this on YouTube or watching this on YouTube and you like what you see, we'd love you to subscribe to the channel. Always got to put that in. So, and also you can follow the hashtag Career Care Package on LinkedIn to follow more of our updates. Karen, there's so many good things that you've mentioned just then to dig into, but one of the things I wanted to ask you about, just because of what you mentioned in terms of having some illness and things like that, is the resilience part, and I think that's really critical for today. What do you think are some of really good strategies around that, particularly related to the pandemic, in terms of keeping yourself buoyant?
I think it's really important to, as I said, look after yourself. I think it's really important to spend time focusing on going out for a walk if you're allowed to. You're not in a lockdown situation. but getting into nature, being able to switch off from electronic devices, being able to sort of get away from things and just sit and be and think and reflect. And I think taking time to stop and think about where you are in life and I know we've got a global audience, but many of us live here in Australia, and I think we're lucky to do that. So think about where we are and where we want to go to, and so just spend some of the time. It's kind of like enforced downtime where we can stop and think and get out of the rat race a little bit and think about if we're doing what we want to be doing. Is what we're doing bringing us joy? I've sort of found I quite liked when we were in lockdown and we weren't going out to restaurants and things, and we weren't busy all the time. There wasn't events and stuff. We had time to sit and talk and reacquaint ourselves with our families, and I think we need to sort of look at the positives of a really awful situation that the world's in.
That certainly helps. And it's funny, I guess it's also around really being aware of those signs of overwhelm as well. So
exactly.
If you're getting a little bit irritated or snappy or tired or whatever is going on, probably been doing too much. So
and time to remove. And I think sometimes you just need to switch off the news.
Yes.
Exactly. Because I think we can get quite depressed when we hear all the sad stories and the journalists who sort of approach things, and obviously bad news sells more than good news, so they do go into a lot of the sad things. But there's a lot of good news stories that have come out of this pandemic as well, and I think we need to sort of focus on those and find those. The people who have pivoted in their businesses and are doing wonderful things, perhaps with the community or doing things a bit differently. Let's celebrate some of the success stories as well.
Absolutely. Naish, you look like you're about to say something.
No, I was just reflecting. I was talking to one of my, client today in the morning, and comes from an IT background, and he's been struggling to get his foot in the door, and he was, you could feel that he was absolutely overwhelmed with the amount of study that he's required to do. The amount of thinking that he's required to do, and specifically, he was sharing about how many tabs does he have open on his computer, right, for different things. Somebody sends him, you should read this, and then he would go, and so he said, I've got around 150 tabs open on my browser. I said, wow. It's like
that's overwhelming.
But that's overwhelming. But I could also understand that he's ferociously trying to learn everything that he could in this time, because of the gap that he has, and it comes from overseas, so he has to also bridge the gap that exists in Australian market, what they are looking for, and the last 1 year of gap, it was absolutely overwhelming for him. And I think if I can also reflect, because as he was talking, I said, look, I can see a lot of things that you are doing, and I can see myself in you too. About the insatiate appetite to learn things, and I want to buy that course, and I want to do that and everything. One of the things that I have made sure in last few months is that the more that I get excited about a course or a certification, I chew the fat on that now purposefully. I don't jump into that. I chew the fat and literally go to the absolutely basic of that to and then make the decision, is it worth right now or not? It's worth it. I do understand that. But is it worth investing that into right now? So the sense of overwhelm, I think, would be absolutely palpable for people, and especially people who have lost jobs or who are made redundant. I think for them it would be. I could feel the emotions, around that. One of the things that could always help is having a bit of routine. And what I did with one of the same client, I said, you have to give me a call 8 o'clock in the morning, regardless. So the weekdays, I don't care. You have to give me a call at 8 o'clock. He said, weekends? I said, don't worry about it. Give me a call on the weekends. I wake up early anyway, and I want that amount of routine. And weeks time he saw that just putting this in routine was working out for him a little bit. And I think that's one of the things that I can sort of, communicate to everyone, that try to find at least one or two things that you can routine, like what me and Caroline have been doing, routinely. Which started with just throwing your head on the other side of the wall, that I'll do that, and then make everything kind of possible around it. So that's my,
Yeah.
kind of take on
And
building some of the habits. Yeah.
yeah, and I think, I mean, one of my favourite scenes in Alice in Wonderland is when Alice is walking down the road and she comes to a fork in the road and she sees the Cheshire cat in the tree, and she says to the cat, "Which road do I take?" And he says, "Where do you want to go?" And she said, "I don't really know." And he said, "Well, it doesn't matter what road you take." So really, that doing that first piece of work where you go, exactly who am I? Doing an audit. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? And then, coming back to what you were saying around, all the distractions and stuff. It's like, is this course, is this book, is this time that I'm going to invest in this, is this going to help me get on the road that I want to go on? And really going, okay, this is a nice to have, but I don't necessarily need to do it right now. So I think that's the thing, getting that consolidation of really spending a lot of time thinking, reflecting, planning, and getting an idea of where you want to go. Now, that's not to say that, you can say that this is the job I want to get and all of a sudden you're going to get it. There may be a lot of deviations along the way, but having an idea of what that long-term goal is really important. Where do you want to get to? And who are the people who can help you? So getting back to the 4 R's, who are the people in your network who can help you? So if it's a particular industry that you're interested in, the good old informational interviews where you can, buy someone a cup of coffee and have a chat. Is there someone, if you want to work in advertising, is there someone that you know in the industry, or who do you know who knows someone who can perhaps do an introduction? I mean, I found so many people, they're really happy to offer you some time. If you say, look, I'm wanting to find out about, a particular industry or a particular company. I really want to work at, ABC Corporation, whatever it is. The opportunity to speak to someone there and find out, what it's really like, what they do in every day, what are the people like that they work with, all that kind of stuff. It's really important things that you can be doing while you're looking for a new role. It's just getting out there, and the more people that you meet, the bigger your network gets. And I always say with networking, it's not so much who you know, it's who knows you. So that's really important as well. So being known by more people. And then they go off and say to their boss or whatever, I met this really wonderful person. They're looking to work in this sort of role, and you never know. I mean, I don't want to quote statistics because I know that 90% of statistics are just made up on the spot, but there is most roles today are not gained through the general advertising. It's through people and it's through networks, and so that's why it's so important to really make sure that you've got a strong network of people who know who you are and what you can do, and that you're constantly building that personal brand that you have that people can see.
Ballan's got a question on resumes, but I actually just wanted to first of all ask you just to dig a little bit deeper into that kind of resilience and well-being aspect again. Naisha's talking about sort of the overwhelm and the 150 tabs on your computer and what to do next and should I do that. And when you're going out and doing that kind of networking, or when you're kind of choosing on something, what's a sign for yourself? What's a sign that it might be the right path for you? Is there anything that your clients experience or that you've experienced that's kind of like an indicator?
Well, I think, as I said, sort of coming back to the core goals of what you want to be doing. So, I work in marketing and I work in careers. So, I look at any particular events or groups, LinkedIn groups or, LinkedIn connections. Where am I going to get the food that I need to feed my desire? So, like if if I feel like Indian food tonight, I'm not going to go to an Italian restaurant. So you need to go, where you're going to get what you need. So as I said, whether it's associations or different opportunities. I mean, I think it's really important to perhaps identify the things that you're really interested in, the things that you're really committed to, the things that you really want to learn about, and I think, for me, I sort of stop and I think, okay, well, I love anything to do with marketing and communications and careers, but I'm also really interested in women in leadership. I'm interested in entrepreneurship and innovation, and so it's kind of like maybe sort of spend some time thinking, what are the key headlines that excite you, interest you, are related either to the career that you're in or you want to be in, or it's just a general interest thing. One of the other things that I always say everyone should have is a really good sense of curiosity, because when you're curious, you just want to find out more and know more. And as Nash said, it can be overwhelming when you're trying to go, oh, this is good, oh, that's nice, and oh, there's a shiny object over there, I'll go over there. So sometimes you need to have that, okay, this is the path that I want to be on, and is it really relevant right now? So
yeah. Okay, so Balance question is, assuming there are 30 to 40 resumes which pass through the ATS, so do all of these, or these people are interviewed, or a selected few only? What's the criteria for a second shortlisting? Okay, so assuming that let's go back to one of the R's, the resumes, 30 or 40 of them actually get through the the ATS. What's then the process for shortlisting? Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, it's at the end of the day, recruitment is about people, and that's why I always say, when it comes to resumes, I mean, I wrote an article many years ago for a magazine and about resumes, and it was the title was Resumes, What's the Goss About You? One of those 3-letter acronyms, where GOS standing for a great overarching statement. So, if you're reading 30 resumes, you're not going to read every single page and every single word and every single detail. Resumes generally get skimmed, so that's why I always say the top half of the first page is the most important real estate there, and that's where you need to sell yourself. So having a great overarching statement, the profile piece is really important. And I think I've read thousands of resumes over the years, and I think sometimes people get a bit confused, and they will have perhaps an objective, and they say, I want this and I want that, and I can do this and all the rest of it. But what we want is not, the employer doesn't really care what you want. They want you to be able to show what you can do for them. So that's where it's sort of really important to, in that paragraph or two, be able to say who you are, and why you're the best person for the role. So really, demonstrate in that profile and summary your key skills, abilities. So it makes you go, oh, this person sounds really interesting, and you want to read on. Because if you don't get that, then unfortunately, people don't have time to sort of read every word on every resume. So it really is important to make sure you're capturing the attention early in the piece with a good profile.
Sounds like there's another R to sneak in there, since we're on the R theme, which is research.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Relevance. And then you're talking about kind of like the networking aspect of finding your path. So again, what do you think of researchy type questions to ask, maybe about a job, or maybe about, in your network, if you're trying to find a direction for yourself?
You mean like asking your network specifically? Absolutely. And I believe in asking your network lots of different things. By building a good relationship with people, there's so many people around the place that I can pick up the phone and say, hi, it's Karen. I've got a question for you. What do you think about this? And they'll give me their opinion. One of the things that I often say to people is to, when they're trying to figure out doing some work on themselves and trying to figure out, who they are and how they should present themselves or how they're seen, is to actually go to people in their network and ask them to give them a few words, say 3 words about how that person, that former colleague or whatever, how would they describe me? If they were talking about me to someone who doesn't know me. So that sort of stuff can be really useful as well, being able to reach out to your network and help them to almost like idea surf, for who you are, how you're seen, and is how you're being seen, how you want to be seen. And then, as I said, when it comes to research in different industries or different sorts of roles, talk to people in your network, ask them, say, I'm thinking about going back to university to studying to be an accountant. I've never worked in an accountant's office. Who do I know who is an accountant or who knows one that you can, I said, ideally buy a cup of coffee, at least have a phone chat, and get some ideas. I mean, one of my recent trips to the hairdresser, she was saying to me that her son, who's in year 12, has applied for and been accepted into university next year. He is going to be doing a surveying course. And I said, does he know any surveyors? What is it about surveying that interests him? And she said, he's pretty good with technology, and someone suggested that might be a good idea. And it's like, well, I know the guy who's a head of people and culture at a very large surveying company. Why don't I ask if it's okay for your son to meet with him and perhaps meet with some of the team there? And she was like, wow, really, that'd be awesome. And he did. He met with this HR director and got a lot of insights. And I think that's the thing. Often, I used to do have a lot of conversations working in a university with like students, and I used to say, in your first year of university, that's when you need to be really sort of finding out about the industry that you're going to enter, and that's when you should be joining industry associations and things like that, so that you can go to events, you can check out the publications and stuff that are relevant. And then, by the time, if you're doing, say, a 3-year degree, if you've been part of an association for 3 years, you've kind of like been in the industry for 3 years. So, you don't get to the end of your degree and then go, oh, I've got a piece of paper, now what do I do? And then they start in roles and they go, I really hate this because they didn't really know what it was about.
Yeah.
Can I say, Karen, on the same line, one of my client who came from a construction contracting, contract administration background, and I told him the same thing. I said, look, this goes probably 2-3 years back, and I said, you got to be, start become more active in your association. I say there will be a very niche, very small, people who work together for the betterment of your vocation, and that's what he started to do. So he, joined that association and went into a couple of, events for them, and then there was an opportunity to become a committee member for some event, and there were some events or something. So he just put his hand up and say, "Yep, I'll do that anyway. I'm not doing anything else, so I'll help you out with setting up events and blah blah blah." And then he was in the event, and people will come and ask, "Hey, what are you doing? How come you are here?" Everything. That lined him up for one interview and landed a job within 2 months of time, and with least amount of effort, and also that also then helps him to learn about the industry from inside out.
Exactly.
Then he knows who's the movers and shakers of the industry, where people are moving into and everything. And that is, I think, that is fantastic way to get into. I'm obviously right now in Victoria, it's difficult for you to get into in physical space, but I'm pretty sure all the associations such as Engineers Australia to Australian Computer Society to CPA to supply chain management body, everyone would be running their virtual events right now. I think it's still a great idea.
Yeah, and I think at the moment it's often there's a lot of webinars, there's a lot of free stuff. It's probably better now in lots of ways to be able to get access to speakers and information that you wouldn't have been able to get previously. Where it might have been a ticketed event, and it might have been $50 or $80 for a ticket, and people go, oh, I can't afford to pay that. But they'll do webinars where they often are speaking for free, and so I mean, I've just been quite attached to my computer because there's just been so much that you can absorb and learn. It's been wonderful.
Couple of questions. Okay, from I think somebody who's watching on Facebook, so I apologise for not using your name. But hello all, where to make connections? I really struggle in this part. Cannot make connections, or better saying, whatever I deliver is expected or even over-deliver. It is quiet and doesn't come to the eye of workplace people. I'm not sure. I think the question is, how to make connections and genuine connections. What I guess, and I think that that's a really good question because people really do struggle with, okay, there's someone on LinkedIn and they look really interesting. How do I actually approach that person to start a conversation or start a friendship or start some sort of relationship with that person?
And I think that's the thing. It's like it's a matter of looking at who you're connected with, who your connections are connected with, and who you might like to be connected with. I mean, LinkedIn has the ability to follow people as well as connect with them, and often people will follow someone. It's like Richard Branson, for example. We're not all going to connect with him, but you might want to follow what he says and what he does. But you also have the ability to follow people who are mere mortals. Who might say interesting things, but I think too. I think it's a matter of looking, at perhaps your alumni network. So school and university networks. I went to Murdoch University. Anyone who sends me a connection request, and it always ends with a connection request. A little bit of a personalised invitation saying why you want to connect with someone. But anyone who's a fellow alumni who wants to connect with me and says, I mean, I'll often do it. I'll see someone and they're a Murdoch alum, and I'll reach out and I'll say, I love the content you're sharing on LinkedIn. I see that you're a fellow Murdochian. Let's connect. And it's kind of like looking for what the mutual connection is to start with. If it's you're a young marketer, maybe you're just graduated or whatever, but you're looking at who's sharing really interesting content in the marketing field, and saying to someone, look, I like what you're sharing. I'd like to connect with you. And what you can do is, obviously make some connections, and then feel free to send a message every now and then. You don't need to connect and forget. See what people are sharing on LinkedIn. You can be, if you don't want to share a lot of your own content, you can be a curator. You can see someone shared an interesting article, or it might be a Harvard Business Review article you've looked at. You can share that with a little bit of commentary. Like I found, it might be simple. I found this really interesting. And then by liking things and by commenting on things on LinkedIn, it all helps build your profile. People will go and say, oh, who's this? John Smith, who's liked some of the things that I've written or I've shared. And that's sort of how you start building connections. You look and you share and you talk and you be friendly and you be real, and you don't send someone a LinkedIn request and then 5 minutes later send them a sales message. It's about getting to know. Yeah, exactly. It's about getting to know people and being real.
It's a funny thing just on that note, because I get so many LinkedIn invitations from people that I don't know, and I am happy to connect with people, but nobody, like 1 in 100, I reckon, put a message in that connection request, and sometimes that message, that 1 in 100, is just, hi, do you want to connect? And even if somebody said to me, here's why I'd like to connect with you, Carol, and I saw you shared an article and I really related and connected to that, they stand out. And so
absolutely,
keep that in mind, that it's just it's 300 characters. You can actually write quite a lot in that, in that 300 characters around what is it in their profile that's interesting, like you say, or what they've
Yep.
shared that you genuinely find interesting, and you will stand out in that respect as well.
Yeah.
So
and I think too, again, talking about standing out, making sure before you go off and try and connect with a bunch of people that your profile looks good, your
yes.
profile is complete.
Yeah.
You have that photograph with your smiling face. You have a detailed about section. It's kind of like if I'm going to look at your profile because you want to connect with me, I want to see who you are. I want to see what you've done. That I want to see that you're a real person, and that that there is, there is something, there's some substance to a profile, and it's not just a computer generated scam thing potentially sitting there, waiting to get into your network. It's I want to see the real you.
At the end of the day, there's people on the other side of the profiles, and sometimes we forget that, I think. So
yeah.
Okay. Do you want to pick up the questions, Naish? Or
So we got a question from Mohammed. Mohammed, welcome. What about connecting with people during the COVID lockdown in Melbourne? When I'm trying to approach people, they advise me to apply online. And second, those who are in the industry, really busy with their jobs and not even checking out their LinkedIn profile as well. So they don't have time to use LinkedIn. So how do we connect with them? It's a very interesting question, because I think that's right. I think we assume that a lot of people are sitting on LinkedIn 24/7. They are not. A lot of the time, I, in my experience, when I reach out to people for and shamelessly asking them to come on this amazing LinkedIn live show, I think people take their own time to respond. And I think it is just that people, just because when I was in India, I had time of my life and I had nothing else to do apart from doing this LinkedIn live. So I would reach out to many, many people. And just because I have time doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else is as available as I was. So I think
I
that's
think
a very interesting one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think maybe that's where a bit of resilience comes into it as well. But LinkedIn isn't the only method of communication in 2020.
really?
If there is, if you know there's someone that you want to connect with, as I said, see who you may know, who may know that person. Have a look on their company website if you know where they work. Often you can pick up the phone and call people and say, hey, I'm such and such. I was looking at things online, or I've noticed that you're the head of IT, for this particular company. I've been doing a bit of research around the company, but I really would love to get some input from someone on the ground there. They might say no, and that's what I said. That's where you're resilient, or you might leave messages and they won't call you back, and you just got to sort of toughen up and move on to the next person. But you can call them, you can email them. As LinkedIn is a great tool, but it's not the only tool. So think differently, think outside the box.
Even if you find their email address, I think it is still a good chance for you to, whatever that you are going to send on an email, whatever on LinkedIn, you are still welcome to do that on email. And secondly, if I can also put it that way, I think this is my view, and I just have got anecdotal evidence. Say that we don't really cast our net wide enough with
Yeah.
people. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say that if you're just take an example of a business analyst. If you're looking at a role as a business analyst, just in Melbourne, there might be 5,000 business analysts, right? How many of you are connected with? If you're just getting satisfied with 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, I think you're missing the point completely. I think you got to go really wide within the kind of area of interest for you. And there's one thing more that I think Karen, you touched upon. I think there's an emerging concept around a lot of the organizations are now thinking of, they're not doing strategic planning, but they are doing strategic intent. And I think that is a very powerful term to use in our career too. We got to have an intent about this is the
Mm,
direction that I want to go into. You may not know exactly what role and which will you lead, but having that intent that I want to work in accounting, or I want to work in business analyst, or I want to work in blockchain technology, having that intent and then going into this, then you'll
mm,
be able to cast your net a little bit wider, and also, find interesting people that you would normally don't see before. And one of
yeah.
the easiest way that when I coach my clients, I say, if you're looking at a role as a business analyst, I can give you 50 more companies than you've ever thought of. And they say, how do you know that? I said, go and check business analyst in Melbourne and just try to find out, people who work in different companies. Check their career graph, which companies did they work for, and you'll be surprised to know that even smaller IT companies and smaller companies also employ business analysts, for example. And you'll be able to say, wow, this is another way for me to really cast my net wider a little bit. So I think that is what I'm coming from, is to come, if you come from abundance, then
Mm,
you'll end up finding them. But if you stick with, 10 people who said, nah, I don't want to talk to you, well, 10 people is not really a rule,
yeah.
for you to bounce, sort of not to pursue further.
Exactly. And it's amazing, people generally love talking about themselves. So, if someone, rings and asks, or sends an email or sends a LinkedIn message and said, like, I'm doing some research, I really want to find out about things. Look, I've just looked at your LinkedIn profile. It looks like you've had a fascinating career. I'd really love to, to spend a bit of time on the phone or buy you a cup of coffee and have a chat and learn some of the things that you did, and perhaps get some of your wisdom. Like, do a bit of ego stroking, and it's amazing where you get.
It's funny with that. I do this thing called the Straight to Shortlist Challenge, and it's in that kind of informational interviewing space. And people make a lot of mistakes when they reach out to people, but if you actually tell people in the email the information that you'd like to find from them, or like quite specific questions, then people actually know what that's about. So just another hack, I reckon, would be really relevant to people at this time. On LinkedIn, there are lots of people that I call hubs. So they're the people that have a lot of connections in your space. And often when people are networking actively on LinkedIn, or they're in charge of a group, or they're putting out content and they're connecting people, they're people that can almost shortcut your introductions to other people, because they know the value of networking. And quite often people have on their profile, reach out and connect. And guess what? They want you to reach out and connect. So, yeah. Now, we've got a couple of other questions in here I just thought would be useful to bring up. I think, Belen, we kind of covered your question. I feel like it's more like having hope and goodness that somebody will help you sail through tough times. Otherwise, no matter how many contacts you have, there's hardly any help except for the fact that someone knows you personally. I think it just might be helpful to know that, like, a lot of my clients have been networking on LinkedIn with people that they don't know during lockdown, and people still are saying yes to connecting and meeting. So it's a little bit slower than it normally has been, but they are still saying yes. And I think it's just a time to cut people a little bit of slack as well, with what Naish was saying, that not everybody is hovering over LinkedIn to say yes to your request. So just to cut people a little bit of slack. But hopefully that those tips that Karen shared, and that tip around what Naish had shared about casting the net really wide, but also hacking, so to speak, and finding somebody that's got connections and look like they network, that might actually help you as well.
And I think that's the thing. I think there are super connectors. That's a word. But a lot of the clients that I work with, and I'll have conversations with them, and they'll say, look, I've been working in the oil and gas industry, but I would really like to pivot and move into the sustainable energy area. So it's like, I then will have a look at my network and go, okay, well, here's 3 or 4 people that I know who are in this industry, and I'll introduce them to them. And 9 times out of 10, well, probably 9 3/4 times out of 10, they'll say, yeah, sure. Obviously sometimes it might be, look, I'm in the middle of a major project, I don't have the time to dedicate to talking to someone. But most of the time people are, as I said, at least willing to have a phone conversation or a Zoom chat or whatever. But like you say, Carolyn, the ability to be able to say, look, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for specific industry insights so I can see how my skills and experience is transferable into your industry, and I'd like to get an understanding of the current trends, whatever it is, just putting it out there. I think sometimes we make assumptions. We make assumptions about people and think, oh, they're too important, they're too busy. But in reality, all you have to do is ask, and they might say no. Or you might not hear from them. You might send an email and it goes into the never, never world where all those job applications go to as well that you never hear back from. But, just ask the question. The worst that can happen is they say no, and sometimes you might be really surprised at where the conversation goes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, often people don't say yes because they actually look at the email and go, I don't know. I don't think I'm the person that can help you. Like, it's a misplaced email, and B, I don't think I can help you. Like, I can't answer those questions. And then there is the yes, I'm too busy and I never answer those, or I'm just too busy. Like, I am too busy. I can't even think in that headspace. There's all those sorts of things that go on in the mind of somebody that's receiving an email.
Yeah. And that's where it's always good if you can have someone do an introduction for you. So you're much more likely to get a response, or even if they don't do an introduction, if someone says, look, Carolyn, I think the best person you can speak to is Joe Smith, and you send a message to Joe Smith saying, Carolyn Brown said that you're the best person to speak to in this space, that name dropping, if you like, it just goes, oh, okay, someone's talking about me or someone's recommended me. So that perhaps even has a bit more insight than just, I'd like to pick your brains.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. We got, I think we're about to wrap up. The question is around if the connection request is sent through mobile. No message can be sent.
It can be,
but I think you're able to.
It can be. If you go to the instead of just pressing the connect, if you go to more and select the send in invite with message or whatever, you can write a message.
Absolutely.
And, so yes, you can.
Absolutely.
You can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Look, Karen, thank you very much for joining us all the way from Perth. Obviously, you didn't have to travel, but thank you very much. We really appreciated the time and the wisdom that you have shared. Now, if people want to learn more about your contact details, what's the best way for them to do that?
Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. Say your stories on this. I mean, I too will connect with people who send me a connection request without a message, but I much prefer if there is a message with it, and they look like a real person. So yeah, send me a connection request. My website is under development, so so quite really looking there, because all you'll see is my logo, and something exciting is coming soon. But I do have a company page on LinkedIn as well for Communicate You. But feel free to connect, and I'm always happy to share and help with people where I can.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you very much, Karen. Caroline, anything else you want to add to before we wrap this up?
Just fantastic to have you, Karen, and sharing all your wisdom and insights and the 4 R's. So, and a couple of extra that we snuck in there as well.
Yeah. We'll have a whole alphabet of R's soon.
Well, I think. So 4 is a nice number. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Follow the hashtag Career Care Package. Tomorrow we're back to Ask Us Anything. So come with your questions. We were doing a resume review. I think it was Monday, wasn't it, Naish? So I'm happy to do some live resume reviews if you want us to take a look at yours. And yeah, I'll throw over to you, Naish.
Thank you very much, everyone. And yes, we'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. We'll do this again. And tomorrow would be an open floor. You can bring us your questions about job search, career, interviews, LinkedIn. And also, if you, as Caroline mentioned, if you want us to review your resume, on LinkedIn Live, feel free to send it to us. You don't have. We will probably, remove all the private bits and keep it as that someone from our listener has sent it, so to avoid any embarrassment as well. But feel free, you don't have to, but it would be great to see you, all of you, tomorrow. And yes, if you are in Victoria, mask up, don't get out of home after 8 o'clock. If you are in anywhere else like Karen, enjoy your day
Yeah,
or
Karen.
evening, and we will see you tomorrow after 23 hours. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.